Super Mario Bros. Is 40 years old. The entire world has played this game collectively for about 1 billion hours. In all of that time, no one has ever done a perfect speedrun, 4 minutes and 54.265 seconds. The closest ever was on October 8, 2025, when Nifsky beat the game in 454.482. Yes! Yes! But can this happen? Could someone do a perfect speedrun of Super Mario Bros., one that could literally not possibly be any faster? What does that even entail? I am Bismuth, and this is the quest for the perfect speedrun in Super Mario Bros. Those who know me well know that I love Speedrun Bingo. I actually am the reigning champion of the Donkey Kong 64 Bingo League. And you know what else I love? RuneScape. I have a 20-year-old account and Gros Perdu, an old-school Iron Man. Imagine my surprise when I learned the madmen at Jagex combined the two to create old-school RuneScape Gridmaster. This is a new limited-time community event that just started this week and will go on for 4 weeks. The goal is simple: try to complete a 7x7 grid of challenges. Marking a tile can earn you insane XP boosts, powerful relics, loot, and other power-ups. Completing full rows and columns give you even more bonus rewards. Like Speedrun Bingo, Gridmaster allows you to route your run however you want, selecting tiles in any order. The rewards from one tile can make other tiles significantly faster and easier, so there is no one way to go about it. Each tile also gives grid points, which convert into permanent cosmetic rewards for the regular game once the event is over. Finally, for the first time ever, this event is also available in free-to-play. You'll have the chance to complete a full column of the grid. It's an excellent way to dip your toes in to learn or to get back into the game. Click the link in the description to get started right now. First of all, what does it take to match the current world record? You need to play the game in such a way that you enter the final level, 8-4, at the earliest possible moment. That's right, the current world record enters 8-4 tied with the tool-assisted speedrun. This impossible task is made possible thanks to frame rules. Super Mario Bros. Tracks time by counting cycles of a global 21-frame counter. Level transitions rely on this timer completing a cycle, so they can only happen every 21 frames. As a shorthand, one 21-frame cycle is also called one frame rule. This usually provides a little bit of leeway to complete the level without missing a cycle, which makes levels like 1-1, 1-2, and 4-2 humanly possible to match the tasks on. In 8-4, however, the timer stops when Mario touches the axe, therefore every frame counts in the final level. Now let's break the run down level by level. Here's the real-time record and the tool-assisted speedrun. You'll notice that they sometimes get off-sync by a tiny amount, but they always line up at the level transition. And this represents all the attempts that make it to this point in the run. As we get further into the game, fewer and fewer runs will make it there, and the square will get smaller and smaller. The numbers are directly based off over 2,000 combined attempts by the two runners who have finished a mid-454, Average 11 and Nifsky. In 1-1, the first obstacle is the underground, which needs to be within just 3 frames of perfection in order to make the fastest frame roll cycle. Then comes the first instance of one of the key tricks in this run, the flagpole glitch. It's a trick requiring several frame-perfect inputs and sub-pixel-precise positioning where Mario clips inside of the flagpole base to touch the pole below its intended location. The result is that the flag doesn't go down and Mario goes straight to the castle, saving 1 frame roll. Nifsky averaged an overall 1-1 consistency of 61% in his 1,300 attempts for the world record. 1-2 is not the easiest level by itself, but the real hard part is here, a frame-perfect 1-frame jump to clip in the corner of this pipe to skip going around the top and reach World 4 1 frame rule faster. Top-level runners averaged a 71% success rate in this level. 4-1 is the easiest level in the run. It's trivial until the flagpole glitch, which functions exactly the same as 1-1. Runners have observed a 78% success rate here. 4-2 is the second hardest level after 8-4. Mario wants to reach the warp zone by entering this pipe, which is way faster than taking the vine up. The destination of a screen transition is dictated by the screen's position. Therefore, the strategy consists of pushing Mario's position on the screen to the right by bumping into blocks so that he can enter the pipe without the screen scrolling too far. Maximizing that position offset requires perfect positioning and speed, as well as a frame-perfect wall jump and a pixel-perfect stop on the pipe to go down it fast enough. Simply doing this is already hard enough, but there's very little leeway to reach 8-1 on the same frame roll cycle as the task. Nifsky and Average have combined for a 12.8% success rate in 4-2. Immediately upon entering World 8, a new trick shows itself, fast acceleration. 8-1 happens to line up so that there's almost zero leeway with the frame rule. To match the task, you have to finish the level within only 2 frames. So Mario needs to accelerate to full speed perfectly, which means doing it backwards. A fast acceleration is 1 frame to the left to turn Mario around, 1 frame of no direction so he stops moving, then start holding right and do a 1 frame jump on the next frame. After this fast acceleration in a long, non-trivial level, another flagpole glitch completes the set of required tricks. Of the 84 runs that made it here, 36 got through 8-1 or 43%. 8-2 is another stage with no leeway. This time, the 2 obstacles are this pipe, which is impossible to traverse without slowing down at all, and the full flagpole glitch, this particular instance of which is often called the bullet bill glitch. When Mario bounces on the bullet bill, he grabs the flagpole without clipping out of the base, and he gets pushed out of the block, which triggers the timer ticking down immediately instead of having to walk to the castle. The combination of this crazy pipe jump and the bullet bill glitch makes 8-2 one of the hardest levels in the run with a success rate of only 36%. Now for 8-3. On paper, it's a simple flagpole glitch, but it needs an additional setup that 1-1 and 4-1 don't require. It boils down to 1 frame perfect jump, and it also makes the flagpole glitch ever so slightly easier, so the consistency of this level is almost as high as 4-1. Although the sample size is getting really tiny, Nifsky and Average got a combined 77% success rate. And so, if you've gotten this far, you are now in 8-4 tied with the TAS. Notice how small of a fraction of all the attempts actually make it here. 1 in 193 runs make it this far. In the current world record, 8-4 is played extremely fast. The main tricks are a backwards wall jump on the pipe and a double fast acceleration in this room. Note that scrolling the screen far enough to update the destination of the pipes, then turning around to this pipe, is faster than going down the next one. Okay, so as you can see here, the tool-assisted speedrun pulls ahead ever so slightly during 8-4 and completes the run 13 frames faster than Nifsky. So in order to get the perfect run, all you have to do is repeat the same first 7 levels and then just play 8-4 better. Simple, right? Well, about that. Let's see what that actually means in the context of each of the 5 rooms in this level. The first one is far and away the hardest. First, a fast acceleration that's slightly different than a regular one. There's no frame where no direction is held because Mario needs to land from this jump as early as possible on the stairs. So the D-pad goes straight from left to right in 1/60th of a second. But that's not even the hard part. Here, these inputs need to be done exactly as such. While holding B and right, release right, press it again, press left, and hold right, all on consecutive frames. If going right nothing right left right in less than 1/10 of a second sounds like a nightmarish button sequence, that's because it is. It's horrible. When testing this room 300 times, one of the best in the world at 8-4, Lucario, managed to do it frame perfectly 36 times for a 12% success rate. The prospect of having to do this monstrosity on the perfect pace is completely demoralizing. It does get a bit better though. Next up is the wall jump room. Like almost every room, it starts with a fast acceleration. The wall jump itself is really hard to do frame perfectly because Mario needs to turn around quickly enough to avoid slowing down too much, and the jump has to be just the right height so that he lands on the pipe and can go down it as fast as possible. When going through this room 100 times, Nifsky managed to tie the task in 35 of them. Then the extremely hard turnaround room. In the world record, Nifsky went for most of the time saves required to match the task, but a slightly inaccurate turnaround cost him a few frames. The task saves another couple of frames with a fast acceleration at running speed here, which requires switching from right to left to right on consecutive frames. It's rarely enough to save an additional frame, but it actually saves 2 in this room. In practice, Nifsky only managed 16 task ties out of 100 attempts in this room. The underwater section is a well-deserved break. Here, the only thing to look out for, other than basic survival, is to land right in front of this pipe. Land too early and Mario loses speed, which can cost a frame, and land too late and you bump into the pipe, which costs several frames. Top-level runners almost never lose any time here. In fact, Nifsky boasted a 99% success rate at a frame-perfect underwater section in practice. And finally, the last room. Thankfully, only one fast acceleration is required here to match the task. Nifsky's success rate was 45% in practice. Altogether, the 5 rooms of 8-4 combined for a total probability of success of 0.3% based on the data measured by Lukuki and Nifsky in practice. And so this run, this square, this represents perfection. This is the perfect Super Mario Bros. Speedrun.
It's over! It's fucking over! Holy shit! Oh my god! Yes! 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 I did it! It's over!
And this is what it takes to achieve it. The probability is 1 in 64,493. When shown like this though, it's a bit hard to conceptualize. Instead, what about we measure how much time that actually represents? To do this, we have to consider that not every run lasts 5 minutes. So how do we figure out how long each attempt is on average? To do that, we need 2 things, the probability for the run to end at a given breaking point and how long it takes for a run to reach this point, fail, and reset. We can chart the probabilities on this pie chart and represent the time in the 3rd dimension. Resetting takes roughly about 7 seconds, give or take, so we'll just add 7 seconds to the point where the major trick happens and round the time to the nearest second. And so, we find out that a bit over half of all the attempts last 1 minute or less, and an overwhelming majority lasts under 2 minutes. To calculate the length of the average attempt, we simply need to multiply the probability that the run ends on each level with the length of time of such attempts and add them all up together. Or in other words, take the volume of each pie slice and redistribute it evenly, then measure the height of the new pie. When we do that, we get an average attempt length of 76.6 seconds. So if we take the sum of all the attempts just to get one perfect run and we put them on a timeline, how long will that take? Let's take a trip through time.
How many times is this gonna die? Come on, bro. It's not even fair. Damn. Imagine though. Dude, that was it. That should have been it. Poor framer. I had it.
(1,372 hours). We can't fully realize exactly how much time that represents, so let's view it this way. A typical session of world record attempts usually lasts no more than 4 hours, 1 hour of warm-up and practice, and about 3 hours of serious attempts. After that, mental and physical fatigue set in and it's fruitless to try and push it more. So if a top-level runner were to play Super Mario Bros. Every single day for 3 hours of attempts, you would expect them to get one perfect run after 1 year and 3 months. 4 hours a day without a single break for 457 days in order to reach 64,000 attempts. But even as crazy as that sounds, it doesn't even paint the full picture. 1,372 hours is the expected playtime to get a perfect run. Theoretically, the actual playtime could be anywhere between 0 and infinity, well, between 5 minutes and infinity. If someone were to really play for 457 days though, they would be far from guaranteed to actually match the task. They'd be more likely to get it than not, but not by much. They'd have more than a 1 in 3 chance to still be chasing perfection. How do we know this, and how long would one have to play to be really sure to get it? The question we're asking can be boiled down to this. For an event that has a probability 1 over n, what is the probability that it doesn't happen after n tries? Let's use dice as an example. Rolling a 6 is a 1 in 6 chance, so we want to know what is the probability that after 6 dice rolls we still haven't rolled a 6. The key to the answer lies there. We need to think not in terms of rolling a 6, but in terms of not rolling a 6. Getting anything other than a 6 is a 5 in 6 chance. So not getting a 6 after 6 dice rolls is the same as rolling anything other than 6 times in a row. The probability of this happening is 5 over 6 to the power of 6. That comes out to just about 1 in 3, or 33.5%. In a general sense, the answer is n-1 over n to the power of n. When you plot this function, you find out that for a large number, this probability approaches a value of about 36.8%. The exact number is 1 over e, but I'll leave the proof as an exercise for the viewer. So even after 457 days of attempts, a top-level runner would still have about a 37% chance to never actually see a perfect run, or if we flip it around, a 63% chance of getting it. In that case, how long does it take to really be sure to get it? The formula we'll be using here has a probability fixed to 1 in 64,000. We're going to plot it over time, not the number of attempts, so we're going to redefine the exponent in those terms. We're assuming 3 hours per day and 76.6 seconds per attempt. If we move the units around to make it more readable, we find that the seconds cancel each other, and 10,800 divided by 76.6 comes out to almost exactly 141 attempts per day. Finally, we're going to look at it from the perspective of the perfect run having happened by that point, so we'll invert the result by subtracting it from 1. This is the result. You can see that after the expected amount of time, the probability of success is 63%. Also, we can see that for a 50-50 chance of getting the perfect run, one would need to play for 317 days at 3 hours of attempts per day. And while we can never see a true 100% chance, we can pick a point where we're reasonably confident it'll happen, like a 95% chance. Here, the outlook is especially bleak, 1,370 days, or nearly 4 years. That's just way too brutal. It's enough to discourage anyone. Maybe the perfect Super Mario Bros. Run will never happen after all. Or maybe, what if we took another look at the success rate of each trick? Sure, we got these numbers by looking at 2,000 attempts by the best in the world, but how set in stone are they? Well, let's take a look at Nifsky's numbers. In his last grind for the world record, he did 1,353 attempts over 14 sessions. If we take the first 4 levels of the run, because World 8 has too small of a sample size to work with, and we plot them over time by grouping them by day, we get this. Okay, well that doesn't tell us much, does it? But if for each stage we draw a trend line, we find that overall across the 14 days, Nifsky improved his success rate for each level a little bit. 1-2 is actually quite a significant increase, from fluctuating around 60% to consistently above 75%. So that's nice, but really, how much impact does improving 1-1 from 59 to 62% really have? On its own, not much, sure. But when you combine these 4 levels together, you also combine the improvement across the board. Every little increase in the success rate compounds and the results are shocking. Nifsky's success rate at reaching World 8, or his combined success rate at the first 4 levels, just about doubled. And that's only after 14 days of consistent sessions of about 100 attempts each. With this idea in mind, we can start forming a slightly optimistic scenario that would account for a runner improving with more practice. If we take the observed success rates and we bump them up slightly, only up to a level that seems very reasonable to achieve, what effect does that have on the overall success rate? 1-1 increases from 61 to 65%. 1-2 increases from 71 to 80%. 4-1 from 78 to 85%. 4-2 from 12.8 to 15%. In World 8, 43 to 45%, 36 to 40%, and 77 to 80%. 8-4 is harder to predict. On one hand, the data we have doesn't come from full game attempts but from practice using a save state directly before each room of the level. So we're talking about practice, not the game, practice. This tends to skew the data positively, as it's generally easier to hit hard tricks consistently when you isolate them with save states. On the other hand, any percent isn't quite at the level where 8-4 needs to be perfect just yet. If that scenario were to become a real immediate future, we would see runners pour in unprecedented levels of practice into the stage. Evaluating how much these two factors would affect the success rate is speculation at best. So we're going to take a conservative approach. In the first room, Lucary's 12% success rate over 300 attempts is incredible, but that room benefits the most from safe state practice, so we'll err on the side of caution and not give our practiced runner a better success rate than that. Similarly, we'll keep the underwater room at a near automatic 99%. In the other rooms, we'll bump the success rate up ever so slightly, 35 to 40%, 16 to 18%, and 45 to 50% for the last room. And now, let's see the effect this has on the expected playtime to get one perfect run. That's right, all those tiny improvements combine to almost triple the odds, from 1 in 64,000 to 1 in 24,000. The expected time to get the run goes down to 194 days, or 134 for a 50-50 chance, and 580 for a 95% chance. 6 months is a really long grind, but it's definitely plausible. With this amount of consistency, a runner could expect to reach 8-4 once or twice every session. In fact, that's exactly what we observed from Nifsky's later sessions. In the last 5 days of attempts, he reached 8-4 on task base 7 times. Now, what if we nudged the numbers up just a little bit more? Let's be optimistic for a minute. 1-1 to 75%, 1-2 to 85, 4-1 to 88, 4-2 to 20%, 8-1 to 55, 8-2 to 50, 8-3 to 85%. In 8-4, the first room to 15%, wall jump to 50%, turnaround to 25%, underwater still at 99%, and a final room at 65%. Sure, those are some crazy consistency numbers, but they're not completely impossible. It's not unreasonable to believe that someone could attain this level of consistency. And look at what we've done to the expected playtime curve. We've gone all the way down to an expected 29 days to get the perfect run, 20 for a 50-50 chance, and 88 for a 95% chance. A 1 in 3,000 chance for perfection is something any speedrunner would take. Now, while this is pretty exciting, there are some caveats we need to address. First, the sample. For the first 7 levels, the data comes from world record attempts which aim to enter 8-4 tied with the task. These are high-value data points, but the problem is there aren't enough of them. While we have over 1,000 runs to look at early on, the number falls off a cliff after the very difficult 4-2, where 656 attempts become 84, then 36, and just 13 in 8-3. So the numbers we get in World 8 are pretty flimsy. However, Nifsky has stated that despite the low sample size, the observed success rates track with his perception of the levels in practice. 8-3 at 77% seems high, but the level really is almost as automatic as 4-1. For 8-4, we do have at least 100 attempts for each room, but these attempts come from safe state practice, not from real runs, so the quality of the data is lower. To understand how different the conditions are, simply look at Nifsky's heart rate while practicing versus on world record pace. But exactly what effect does this level of adrenaline have on the performance? On one hand, the nerves are unbearable and could cause anyone to make a mistake they would never make otherwise. But on the other, the increased acuity can make someone take their performance to the next level, or what the pro gamers call the clutch factor.
Am I about to go down as the most clutch gamer alive?
Speaking of the clutch factor, Nifsky's most recent antics threw a bit of a wrench in his video. I originally built the video around a Verge 11's record, but had to change it last minute because Nifsky went ahead and tied it in 2 attempts, then beat it on the same day just a week ago. I didn't include any data from Nifsky's latest attempts because by then the analysis was already complete and it would have required too much of a rewrite for negligible gain. When I introduced optimistic but realistic scenarios, I gave the success rates a flat increase across the board, but one could argue that it makes more sense to instead apply a formula where the rate increases over time with diminishing returns. I did consider this option, but ultimately the result is the same. It's just speculation. Whether I came up with a flat rate or a formula, the parameters are all arbitrary anyway. So I saw little value in coming up with a complex model if I were to be adjusting the same knobs under a fancy disguise. Finally, what we define as perfection is the tool-assisted speedrun of the game. Well, that speedrun being perfect is a conjecture rather than a proven fact. In the last 15 years or so, the tool-assisted speedrun was improved by a total of 1 frame in April of 2019. It's pretty hard to imagine that there exists an undiscovered way to save time. Thousands of hours were put into figuring out the best solution, and many sections of the run were even brute-forced. But it's never been proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that this truly is the perfect run. As a side note, the comparison is made with the fastest tool-assisted run that operates under the same rules as real-time runs, which prohibit pressing both left and right at the same time because regular NES controllers can't produce that input without modifying or wearing down the D-pad. The TAS community operates under slightly different rules, so the speedrun that's regarded as the fastest TAS of Super Mario Bros. Is actually 454.032, and left plus right is used to accelerate Mario even faster to save 14 frames in 8-4. Despite some limitations with the model, the results are clear. The perfect speedrun of Super Mario Bros. Is possible. Whether it's actually a viable goal to go for right now, the line is a little blurry. At the current measured rates, 457 straight days of attempts is, in my opinion, not realistic. But the compounding effect of tiny increases in success rates is incredible, and 6 months and a half is actually doable. And I guarantee you, if the prospect of achieving perfection, of going down in history forever as the pinnacle of speedrunning, of a record that could literally never be beaten, if all of that really is just a few months of hard work away, then it's no longer a pipe dream. It's an inevitability.